Hey neighbor, welcome back to ARTV. My name is John, and Linkin Park are an extremely important group, not only to rock music, but just the world of music at large. Today, I'm going to be taking on the arduous task of ranking every single song on the standard edition of their Diamond-certified debut album, Hybrid Theory, from worst to best. This was definitely not easy for me, because even though Hybrid Theory is not my favorite Linkin Park album, that still goes to Meteora, this was a very important, monumental release in my life that really changed the way that I saw and thought about emotions and feelings. And honestly, I think Linkin Park were one of those bands that kind of broke down the barriers and said, it's okay to be sad and also a rock star at the same time. You'd get beat up back in the day for talking about your feelings or putting something out there in the world that said, maybe I'm having suicidal thoughts, or maybe I'm just having the worst of times reflecting on past trauma. You would get beat up, shoved in a locker, whatever after school activity that took place to you. I'm sorry if you went through that. I'm sorry if you were ever bullied, but I also know that this album helped so many people, millions of people worldwide, and that is why we celebrate its legacy on its 20th anniversary. Of course, I'm going to be sharing my opinions, my ranking in this video as I go song by song, but I want to know what you guys think too. Do you have specific memories or a time in your life that you associate with this album, whether you discovered it this year or 20 years ago? I want to know. And also, a special shout out goes out to the two songs that I'm not ranking, High Voltage and My December. My December in particular always meant a lot to me. My birthday's in December. I don't know, it's just emotional, but I don't cover deluxe editions on the channel and I have to stay consistent. Without a doubt, this was a game changer record, not only for nu metal and rap rock, but also for alternative and pop. There were so many things at stake here, and they pulled it all off so well and refined it even further on their second album. So here, on the 20th anniversary, October 24th, 2020, 20 years later to the day, I celebrate this release and also move into my ranking. And if you're wondering, what would I rate this album in 2020? Well, a 4.5 out of 5. Runaway is my least favorite song on Hybrid Theory. By Myself sounds almost identical to this one, except with slightly stronger lyrics and a more tasty instrumental mood. So while I still don't classify this as a skippable song by any means, I mean, this is an iconic debut album we're talking about here, I can't say that I seek it out as much as the others. The lyrics fall short, and Linkin Park's critics would be swift to fly in and scream, but the lyrics on all their songs suck, and to that I would shake my head sternly in disagreement and remind you that simple doesn't automatically mean bad. Runaway just felt like it was trying too hard to be edgy with the screams Chester drops about never coming back and the somewhat forgettable punchlines from Mike, but hey, at least the verses sound great. DJ, turntablist, musician extraordinaire, whatever you want to call Joe Hahn, just know that this band wouldn't be who they are without this guy. The first two Linkin Park albums allowed Joe a solo track to put his scratching skills to the test, and even though Session from Meteora is far superior, the longer Cure for the Itch is still pretty amazing by its own credentials. When you hear I'd like to introduce Mr. Hahn, you just know, dude, you know he's about to kick into something spectacular from his tasteful sampling choices, kicking programmed drums, and really just the entire atmosphere. The keys sprinkled throughout make you feel like you're gliding over the highway at night in a hovercraft. It's futuristic sounding even 20 years later without straying too far from the core sound of Hybrid Theory. And I hate to rank it so low, it's still a chill memory that's definitely crucial to the album. People love to meme on a certain single that we're gonna get to, but honestly to me, it's not even a contest when it comes to picking the weakest single release from Hybrid Theory. Weakest doesn't mean bad or that I hate it, but One Step Closer just doesn't hit the same after hearing it 1,000 times. You feel me? Echoing the sentiments of loneliness and outsider status that made this record hit home for millions, we have a song that knows exactly what it wants to be and really does succeed on that front. It's passionately sung and screamed, the chugging guitars set the pendulum in motion nicely, but once we get to that shut up part, I'm almost tempted to skip these days since Chester has so many other better screams on this album. Mike and Chester's vocal chemistry is a major factor in what made Linkin Park stand out in front of the pack, and their names are up in lights on the album's 7th track, By Myself. I don't necessarily think this is one of their strongest, clearly, with the placement that I've given it here, but the thrashing guitars keep you on your toes right out of the gate. There's just a fuming angst boiling over, and it 100% works to their advantage. There it is in all its skin-crawling glory, the song that I've seen people memeing about for the past decade due to how Chester yells out the chorus. I'll admit that it sounds a bit overly angsty, even for the most angst-ridden teenager chomping at the bit for something just like this, but I genuinely love this song to death despite its obvious flaws. It's passionate, intense, and therapeutic for me. I love the ambience programmed into the start, adding in some keys to set the tone before crushing a fist through the wall once Brad and Chester really let it rip. Crawling was one of my first Linkin Park songs. It was all over rock radio in the 2000s. I just can't shake it. It's like a ghost living rent-free in my brain, given how much it helped calm me down in the days that I felt so angry.
Didn't look out below, watch the time go right out the window, trying to hold on, didn't even know.
Here's a song that almost everyone on the planet knows. That is a massive accomplishment. Whether you like the song or not, just to have your music known by so many people, multiple generations already, and yet it still hits home with a powerful observation about apathy fueled by bitter loneliness. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. Time is flying by, and no matter what you accomplish, it can feel like hollow little victories in the end. This is the type of music that made a lot of people realize that there were others out there sharing their deep-seated trauma, pain, and everyday misery while trying to hold it together. The 2000s weren't exactly kind to people who opened up, but I'd argue that Linkin Park helped start a movement that made it a lot more okay for rockers and musicians at large to open this thing up. And I'm not talking about the pit either. The Hybrid Theory swan song Pushing Me Away lands next at number 6. This is a really underrated cut, a glimpse into the future of the band if you think about it. Look at the musicality. Even from an objective point of view, this is way denser than a lot of the peers, building on the running synth intro to add a really compelling narrative that showed off how impactful Chester could be as a vocalist, especially with Mike adding in his vocal counterparts that helped make this finale so special. Plus, high-key, this was probably Rob's best drum performance on the album. The percussion is a lot more important to the mix here, so don't think that I don't see the effort. I see it, and I raise you 1,000,000 kudos, good sir.
I don't know what set me on first, but I know what I can't stand. Everybody acts, the fact of the matter is I can't add up to what you can.
That was weirdly unintentional, but from the ending all the way back to the top of the pack, here's the Mike Shinoda heavy Papercut at number 5. Simple riffs have a tendency to work out remarkably well for LP, and this single is definitely no exception. Mike's bars are stealthy and cat-like, Chester nails the bridge, the turntable scratches pair nicely with the noisy guitars. It's classic Linkin Park, and that's really all I need to say. Press play and you'll instantly feel the era this song came from, but unlike so many of their long-forgotten contemporaries of the time, A Place for My Head is still an incredible adrenaline rush that keeps your heart pounding instead of bleeding out somewhere decades away from relativity. I get so psyched when this one comes on. They were making plays left and right, and you've gotta love every single second. Brad plays this really intriguing light guitar in the intro to throw off expectations, Mr. Hahn lays down some quick scratches to make the suspense ramp up in your head, and of course that dynamite switch is none other than Mike and Chester trading back and forth, culminating in a screamed finale that I can only describe as a hairs on the back of your neck standing up type of moment.
Let's start to the bottom, and the top I stop. At the core I forgot, in the middle of my thoughts, taking far from my safety. Pictures there.
Bitch, you guessed it! Back to back on the ranking comes the second half of what we started on A Place for My Head. They fade beautifully into Forgotten, a song that I'd say is, overlooked? What's another word for that? I can't seem to remember. The band snapped back to heavy mode with some crunchy guitars and a swift pace that gets the headbanging flowing yet again. This song stands out as one of the most detail-oriented despite its kind of cheesy lyrics from Mike in particular, but I mean it when I say he could be rapping about his favorite types of birds and it would still slap just for the music alone. Carving out enough room for each member to shine is what Forgotten does best. There's even some backing vocal harmonies from Chester that sound phenomenal. They tinkered with this more as they progressed as a band, but even their oldest material shows us the drive, the passion to learn and grow and evolve without losing the heart of why they do what they do.
And I can't bring you back, it's true.
Aggression hangs in the air with a raging face of flame spewing from Chester Bennington to the point of desperation. Despite being stabbed in the back, they relay this convincing message of loyalty, or maybe even to a degree, Stockholm Syndrome. Memories hold us captive in a jar until we let go. Something that's clearly painted as being easier said than done by this agonizing grand slam with you. Supercharged electronics soar to the sky, while ripping guitars make me want to air guitar and air turntable at the same time. There's a stern message in his resilient voice, never wavering each time the hook rolls around after getting the mic pass from Mike himself.
Think your game before somebody else takes you out of the frame. Put your name to shame, cover up your face. You can't run the race.
Points of authority. My childhood, my bitterness, my anger, all wound up into one tight little ball. An obvious chart topper for me to end this hybrid theory worst to best ranking is here, and it's really a little bit of everything that I've said up to this point to describe what made their early material so iconic. Factor in the looping electronics, chunky riffage, blast of turntable distortion, and of course Mike Shinoda at the top of his MC game as he passes the baton to Chester for the majority of the track, until that hard-hitting rap from the intro swings back into action to serve as the fiery bridge to the song. Forfeit the game before somebody else takes you out of the frame and puts your name to shame, cover up your face, can't run the race, pace too fast, you just won't last. Happy 20th anniversary, Hybrid Theory. I gave you my ranking, now show me yours in the comments section down below. Shout out to you guys for watching this special countdown, for liking the video, and for those going the extra mile to support my content on Patreon. Visit the top link down below if you want to sign up, and if you're looking for even more of my Linkin Park content, tap this playlist here, or tap here for another album ranking. Until next time, neighbors, thanks for watching ARTV.